Creator and co-host of Homegrown Radio, Chuck Dizzle's passion for local talent has introduced the world to TDE, YG, Dolla Sign, Kehlani, and so much more. You now can hear Dizzle and Homegrown Radio on Real 92.3 in LA and in over 40 cities nationwide. Recognized by the LA Times as a true voice for the people, Chuck Dizzle is a necessary reminder of what makes radio great. We discussed how when he got the call that his 40 hours a week at the radio station would be cut to 4 hours a week, what he did to get through after announcing that him and his wife were going to have a baby. Life as a radio personality ain't easy, and Chuck joins Peaks and Valleys to talk about it right now.
They say it is the darkest before the dawn. But what do you do before the dawn comes when all you have is candles and night lights guiding your path until morning, until your sight is restored and you can see your way out, your way through, your way to the other side. You push with all your might until the day breaks and your victory comes. This is Peaks and Valleys with TK Trinidad.
All right, folks. He is a national syndicated radio host and the founder of Homegrown Radio. You can catch him on Real 92.3. Such an inspiration. Chuck Dizzle, welcome to Peaks and Valleys.
Man, TK, man, appreciate you having me on. We go, it's funny, we go back, but we haven't like really had a sit down conversation and like really chop it up as far as personal lifestyle and things of that nature. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, we just be seeing each other on the gram, like you being an amazing father, an amazing husband, even before it was popular. Like, Black love it was getting there, and with BLM and everything that happened last year, it was getting there, but you was out there like loving on your wife when it wasn't as popular.
Absolutely.
And that's a good thing, especially, not to down the music. Sometimes the music is not favorable to healthy Black relationships, and we see.
Well, I mean, let's
you
be honest.
in the business.
I mean, even radio personalities. Like, I remember a time when it wasn't cool to say you were in a relationship. So, like, I made it a point to say, like, nah, I'm with my wife. Like, my wife, we've been married.
Mm-hmm.
We're celebrating 10 years this year. So, like, she's been the backbone of my success. And like me, I always knew that once I found somebody like I knew that was going to be a part of this journey that I've been doing as far as radio. Once I found somebody that's going to have my back, there was no denying that. So I shout her out all the time. That's my queen.
And now talking about this entertainment radio journey, I already know you got stories. So is there a time in your life where it's just like, damn, like I don't know how I'm gonna do this? You ready to pack up, you ready to sometimes you just want to, sometimes I wish I could just crawl back into the womb. I was like, I was good there. My life was good there.
It was nice and warm.
It was nice and warm. Didn't have to worry about nothing. Yeah, don't worry about clothes, nothing like that. So there's a time in your life where it's just like, I don't know what this is. I'm gonna make it. And then what you did to get out of it.
I've had multiple times. I guess I'll share you the last time that I've had that moment. It was while at Real 92.3, to be perfectly honest. People that don't know the journey, that I've been there since the station pretty much launched 7 years ago. And I've done every job that you can possibly think of in terms of like the on-air hosting, right? I've filled in for so many people. I've worked for Big Boy. I've answered the phones. I've done all the things that you can possibly imagine. Worked every shift. And it got to the point where I was getting my hours consistently. So I'm getting my reps. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I'm now kind of getting a nice amount of, not money like that, but it's consistent. Right. And I got pulled into the office and they told me, hey, we got to cut your hours. And this is at a time where I just found out I was going to be having a son. Like, so things were getting there. It was at a time where I thought things were getting stable and the rug got pulled from under me. And it was just one of those moments where it was like, oh, now what? Like, I'm going from 40 hours to 4 hours and I got to feed a family. Like,
wait, was that exaggeration or that was for real?
No, that was real. I was getting 40 hours a week because I was working every different shift. And then they said, okay, we can't consistently. I knew the hours weren't consistent at that time, but I knew I was getting like a good 30 to 40 hours. 30 to 40 hours around that time, but it was consistent.
Yeah. Something you can eat off of.
Something you can eat off of. And then they were like, budget cuts. We're still going to keep you, which was a blessing, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt bad. I didn't feel bad, but I knew the news. They didn't want to deliver it to me the way they delivered to me because I just announced the pregnancy. My wife was about to have a baby. It was a
Mm.
big thing, and literally a few weeks later, they're like, "Yeah, man. So here's the situation." It's like, that was definitely like one of those oh shit moments because it's now not only it's like I've always groomed myself to be able to handle any situation solo, right? You put me anywhere, I can thrive, I can figure it out. But now I
Right.
have a wife and a kid. Like even with my wife, she's kind of accustomed to how this lifestyle is. But now
Right.
it's you're entering a different journey as far as parenthood and now
Mm-hmm.
responsibility as a father. So literally, TK, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I applied everywhere I could possibly go. Like, I put my resume out there. I signed up for Uber. I did everything that I possibly could just to make ends meet. And
Wow.
thank God, things it worked out in my favor where the hours end up increasing. Shortly after, I was able to sustain for a little bit, and then the hours increased back again, where I was able to kind of do my thing. But that moment though, it was scary because it was like, what are you gonna do? Like, how am I gonna feed my family at this point? And as
Wow.
a man, just in general, as a man, you just it's just you don't like to ask your lady for money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And to pay for rent. How am I gonna do this? Having and I'm blessed enough to have a great support system. So that's how I got through those tough times. But it was definitely one of those oh shit moments where I didn't know what I was gonna do.
So what was it like? Did you actually end up driving Uber and doing the little gig economy job? Okay.
Here's the funny part about it. And I feel like God always places things in my life where he gives me that nod, like, yo, I see you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally applied, do it because there was a dent in my car. Uber wouldn't hire me because of my car. My car situation was a dent in my car. Something it wasn't too old. It wasn't too old, but it was something where I did the whole inspection. They came out, checked my car out, and they were like,
Damn.
"Yeah, you can't do it because of that." And I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do? So I did Uber and Lyft, and they both denied me. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to
Damn.
buy it. I can't buy a new car, and this is the only car that I
Uh-huh.
have. So okay. Um, Another thing, I went out. So I have an old ass truck, right? I got an old truck, old pickup truck. It was my father's truck before he passed away. So when he passed, I
Mhm.
end up I have it, whatever. So that's not neither here nor there. But there, those little scooters that are around the city, little
Yeah.
bird scooters. My plan
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, I'm gonna download the app, go pick up these bird scooters. That's gonna be the next hustle. And I
Right.
swear, TK, the application for everybody else who's ever done it, it's probably easy. But when I tried to do it, it took like 30 days for them to even respond back to me. So by that
Damn.
time, I found out the next hustle, found out something else to do. But it was always one thing after the next where it just didn't work out. And I'm like, yo, is that God just telling me like, no, I got something else planned for you. Don't even trip. Like, I see that you're willing to go through whatever you need to feel, to do what you got to do for your family. But I got bigger plans for you. And it worked out to the point where I didn't have to go that route, but I was willing to,
Mm-hmm.
So
And what was that feeling like? Because I experienced that too, where a door closes, and I'm like, all right, let's go, like whatever I need to do.
mhm.
So what was that like? Did you and your wife like pray together? What was that conversation like? And then what was the self talk like? Because we already
Well,
know just by that little bit, you have the hustle. The hustle's already in
yeah,
you. So what was
for
that? What
sure.
was that process?
It was just more of a reminder. Like, of course, we had those talks. We're both we don't we're not we're both spiritual. We don't go to church, but it's like we do have those conversations with God, like, yo, whatever you got for me, whatever you got. So the thing that I loved about my wife is like we balance each other out, right? So the
Mm,
times where I wasn't feeling the best, she would just hype me up, like, yo, it's cool, we got this, we'll figure it out. You know, I got this over here. This is what's going on as far as my profession, and this is gonna hold us down for this amount of time, and we'll just see what happens. And that allowed me to kind of get my confidence back up to a job will come here where I do a voiceover here, or my hours will pick up some way with the station. But it would sustain me to say, okay, well, at least it's holding on for the next thing.
mm,
But that self talk, that I'm glad you said that. That's like really the most important because even in those moments where she probably wasn't able to kind of get me back in my mind, like I had to kind of like sit down and say, look, I always had this like reminder to myself, like look at the way your trajectory of not only your career, but your life is gone, right? You've had certain things happen, but it's never been a downward spiral. It may have got stagnant, it may have gotten stuck, but it's never went
Mm-hmm.
down. And I think there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? And I think I just the way I approach and look at life, I'm blessed. I'm living my dream. I'm in Los Angeles in the entertainment business.
Mm-hmm.
What more can I ask for? I have a family that supports me. I have a wife that loves me. I'm blessed. I'm rich in that sense. So I don't care what my
Mm-hmm.
account says. My account may be negative, but I'm rich in love. I know a lot of people that have that are paid and are miserable because they don't have that around them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think seeing that up close and really seeing like, oh, okay, well, damn, that person is making these moves. They're doing this, but then you can see in their eyes, they're not happy. And for me, it's the other way around. I may not have my pockets fat, but I'm rich with love with the family. So those times where things are not that great, I kind of like look at that. I'm like, okay, and look at what I've been able to do thus far. You know what I'm saying? That just doesn't
Right.
happen. Being in Los Angeles, being in radio, it's not no small thing to look at, And I kind of tap into those moments where um not only for myself, but what I've done for other people. And I'll get messages on Instagram, people that tell me, man, just you playing my music did a lot for me, or you showing the world my music, or whatever the opportunity, man. I just never forget that. Those moments for me kind of helped me get through it too, and say, okay, well, it's definitely not about the paycheck. You have a bigger purpose. It's all about the impact that you're making, and it'll be great if it's behind the FM dial, but if it's not, we got social media. There's tons of ways that I can still do what I do without
Right.
necessarily having to be on LA radio. If that's the case.
Right. Yeah, but you on LA radio, and LA radio is just not radio in general.
Yeah.
And then you add the layer of LA radio, and then you add, I don't know, we discussed it. I'm big on just letting people know, if you're not familiar with LA radio, especially hip hop, there's just not enough black folks. I like, and
Right.
it's just the majority of people who listen to hip hop in Los Angeles is more Latino, so they're gonna cater to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's as somebody who's a fan of hip hop, you're now trying, and you're black, you're now trying to get the very few, like there's already few stations, and now there's few jobs, and now you
Mm-hmm.
there, and maintaining that. Like, what's the self, because even like me thinking about that, and when I was at Real 92, or when I was at iHeart, it was a pressure cook situation. You didn't know who your boss was. It was a whole situation. I'll tell that story in a whole another issue another day. But talk about how you maintain that. I have love over here, and I'm gonna do my job over here, and I'm gonna do it at the highest level.
Well, I think it's really going down to your passion. Like I remember being 10 years old and wanting to listening to the radio, it being the soundtrack to my life, right? And said, I want to do that. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I want to do that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so from then, it was always the journey. I never took no for an answer, if that makes any sense. Like with all the stats and all the things that we hear about this, it's like I just had a love for this shit. So it's like I'm gonna continue to try. And if that doesn't work out, I'm gonna build my own doors. That's how Homegrown came about. It was I
Mm-hmm.
literally I submitted my resume to the Beat and the Power. The Beat was the one that hit me up for an internship. I ended up doing an internship, got hired over there. That's kind of how my radio career started. But there was a time where I wasn't working on the stations anymore, and I couldn't get in. So I was like, you know what? Well, if they're not gonna hire me, I'm gonna just build my own platform. And I think that really gave me the confidence to say, well, if it works, great. If not, I'm still gonna sustain my own way. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever the representation looks like, I know what I'm about. I know what platform that I'm trying to build. They get with it, great. If not, I'm not tripping. So I think for me, I wasn't relying on the jobs and relying for the doors or the opportunities. I just kind of built my own. And I think that
Right.
taking that pressure off of myself did a lot. Where I see a lot of people, and some of the advice that I give to upcoming personalities and people that kind of have that same struggle, or at least talk about that. I said, you know, don't worry about that. Worry about what's your intention. What do you want to do about this? What do you want to do? What's your niche when it comes to radio? Are you a music person? Are you into just talking to people and kind of filling out their lifestyle and helping them out on a day to day? What's your thing? Okay, social media has allowed us to now
Mm-hmm.
make our own thing and do it our own way. Where they'll catch up. The corporate stations, they'll catch up if they see you doing numbers and see you doing your thing or see the personality, they're gonna pull you in. And I've seen it.
Yeah.
Like I'm an example of that. You know, I've been hired at 3 different stations in Los Angeles. That doesn't happen. And I think that because I took that pressure off myself of saying I have to get into the door. It's like, no, I have my own door. I have my own opportunities here. In the beginning, I definitely was like, yo, get me in the door, get me in the door. But once I got in, you know, you see how it is. You know, the curtain's been pulled back. You see how things are operated. For me specifically, it was more like, damn, I can't play music the way I wanted to play it. Okay, well, I'm gonna do it this way at Homegrown. I'm gonna definitely
Right.
play the underground artists. I'm gonna play those artists that are trying to get their way in and provide a way out of no way. So I say all that to say you have to have that same mentality when you're approaching the opportunity. What's going to fulfill you, you know, and answer those questions. If it's with that logo, then hey, by any means, do what you got to do to make it happen. But you don't want to live and die on that because it can be taken away in an instant. We know how this entertainment business is. You can literally be here today, gone tomorrow, and if you're gone tomorrow, those calls are going to stop coming in. What are you going to do at that point? So for me,
Right.
I've always rested my confidence in it'll be great if I'm there, but what am I going to do when I'm not? How am I going to build a solid foundation? I've been building a network obviously throughout the years, and my resume and my reputation throughout the business kind of like it sets for itself for people that know like, damn, he's one of those solid ones, you know?
Yeah, like it's kind of full circle because I remember at one point when you guys did come in to Real 92.3, Homegrown was a separate entity, which it still is, but the
Hmm.
full circle of it being recognized, like I'm getting goosebumps. It's not even my brand. Like the
Right.
full circle of it being recognized and you guys really representing LA music
Hmm.
and just like the music because you know when you listen to radio you know it's a numbers game, it's a business
Right.
game, and you know there's an understanding to that, but there are millions of people, billions of people making music that are making great music that you know you might not hear the light of the it might not see the light of day, and you're presenting this to the world, and then to be
Yeah.
recognized in full circle and see that logo beside Real 92.3 iHeartRadio, tell me about that feeling.
Yo, the funniest thing, shouts out to Doc Winter when he's the program director at Real 92.3 and like just the head honcho with urban programming at iHeart,
Hmm.
right? So when he gave us or gave us the opportunity, you know, and Doc, if anybody knows Doc, he's so nonchalant. So he calls me and he's like, hey, you know, I see what you guys doing with Homegrown. Like, yeah, you guys are, you know, it's kind of moving. You guys want to bring that
That's
to
like
Real?
him too.
Because let me just set it up. So when Ed got hired first, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, he was a mixer, part-time mixer. By way of him, he got me into the building, right? So I became an on-air personality through my relationship with Ed, right? So
Mhm.
we're on as individuals. He's on mixing on the weekend at some point in time, and I'm on air on the weekend at some point in time. And you know, at sometimes they would put us together here and there, but it was just like, okay, nobody's working this day. Chuck has to fill in. All right, boom. So it was like, oh, okay, we would be on air together sometimes, but it wasn't
Right.
homegrown. So when Doc called us and was like, think about doing homegrown on the weekends, we're like, yeah, like, yeah, for sure. Like, why not? Right. So that was just one of those experiences where it was like, of course. But fast forward to years later when they had offered us to do the night show, they're like, hey, you know, this is what's going on. We want to pair you guys together. We know you guys have the chemistry. We know you have the, you know, you guys do this, right? So you guys are gonna now be the night show of Los Angeles. Great.
Mhm.
Guy's like, what do you want to call it? I'm thinking we just keep it homegrown. I'm like, yeah, like, duh, for sure. But I never thought, like you said, about that full circle moment. I was very prepared for them to say, no, we're just gonna call it something else. We're gonna build our own thing and just kind of let you guys rock. But for them to allow us to do homegrown as the night show now in Los Angeles, it's just surreal, man. And again, it just goes to show, just stay on the course and things will work out. I hate to sound so cliche, but at least for me, that's how it's worked out. To stay the course. Things are gonna get bumpy, but how are you gonna sustain through those valleys? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you see the peaks. You know what happens in the peaks. We all celebrate things are great, but what's that mindset? What are you gonna do when things aren't going great? When you're going through those valleys? And for me, I've always just made it a point just to kind of just be still and understand how blessed we are just to have the opportunity to live out our dreams. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
think for me, that's been one of those things where it allows those full circle moments for me to like fully embrace them. Like I get goosebumps thinking about it and talking about it every single time because I know it's not a regular story.
No, it's not. And then I mean, just also seeing we're so lucky in the era that we're in, where you can create your own. Like you, if you have a cell phone, which everybody does. Like I remember I went to Romania, and the homeless people had cell phones. So if you
Really?
have, yeah, because that's how they
Wow.
communicate.
Yeah.
So and even like I remember there's certain parts, I can't remember what documentary I was watching, but it was like in Nigeria where they were like homeless, but they had the cell phone because that's how they would collect money, or
Wow.
yeah. And if you have WhatsApp and you have a Wi-Fi signal somewhere, you don't even need the service. So it's
Get
like
to it.
everybody
Yeah.
has, yeah. And I think I can't remember who posted it, but there was a guy who was making beats off of his cell phone, but it was like an old school cell phone. It's like it's so
I just posted something of a DJ. He was mixing. He
I
was
think that was
mixing
you.
on,
I
yeah,
think it was
he
your
was
post. Yeah.
mixing. He was mixing. He had three different cell phones and he's mixing like, and I'm like,
And they
yo,
weren't
that's
the newest, they weren't the
fire.
latest version either.
Oh no, these are like some Nokia, probably
Yeah.
pre-flip phone, phones. But the fact that he was doing it, it reminds me of when we were doing homegrown out of my apartment. Like before there were apps, we had to figure
Mm-hmm.
a way through the BlackBerry phones, how to transmit our show. So we would literally be at my apartment, and I would figure a way. It was some coding that I had to do, but I would send out like a full blast to my BBM chat, and people could go to our website and stream the music before there was an app. Like, and I know it sounds crazy. I know people we into the Spotify's, the app, like we're there, title, all that. This is before that when it wasn't common to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
you could listen on your computer online, but you couldn't do it from your phone. So we found a way to do it. And I knew at that point, I'm like, yo, if people could listen from their phones or their cars, yo, that changes everything. And now I think
Yeah.
that allowed me to kind of boost my confidence too. Like, okay, I would love to go the traditional route, but there's other opportunities that you can kind of go about this and have your voice heard, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, yes, the pandemic happened, but what people were able to do with the time that you had to slow down. Like it's
Hmm.
amazing to see. And some people needed that mental rest, so I'm not, saying everybody had to go to work. Some people needed that moment to just do nothing. But
Right.
just seeing the folks that like did something and they took all those opportunities, like it's amazing. It's amazing to see. And the era that we're in where you can click a button and you could be at your house and I'm at my house and we doing a full interview. I could just click it and we're like, it's just, you couldn't even do that 6 or 7 years ago.
At all. At all.
So yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I want to circle back to the Black love thing,
Okay.
and you being married for 10 years. What's the secret? Like what not necessarily, because everybody's relationship is different, but
Yeah.
what's your advice?
You gotta have fun. You gotta really have fun. You gotta love your partner, right? You gotta your my wife is my best friend. So it's like, and we're able to have open communication with each other to the point of like there might be some things that's uncomfortable that I might have to say to her or she's gonna have to say to me, right? Um, but ultimately it's like you have to really want it. Like I think I see people's relationships and again, everybody's different, but I think they're in love with the idea of being in love. When you're in
Mm-hmm.
love, it doesn't mean it's all great. Some shit is
It's
gonna be
work.
bad. And how are you,
Mm-hmm.
again, going back to peaks and valleys, how are you gonna sustain when things aren't great, right? When my pockets are flat, when I have no money to pay for anything, for me, that's super important. How are you gonna react then, right? And for me, she just took everything on the chin, like, hey, we're gonna figure it out. Nah, I know it's all good, babe. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know she had to be frustrated, but for her not to lash out, those are those moments where I'm just like, yo, that's this bond is deeper than anything that I could ever want, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, when things are not the greatest, like I go back to those moments and it's about sacrifice, right? You're not gonna get everything you want in a relationship. saying? Like, you have to be able to kind of like pull back. There might be some things or characteristics that you don't like about somebody. Like, for one thing, we're different in the sense of like, I'm more extroverted, she's more introverted, right?
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't like to do interviews or anything like that, right? But she's a personal chef, and there's moments where I'm like, babe, you gotta kind of get out there. So she'll push and she'll pull a little bit, but at some point she'll listen and say, okay, I'll jump out and do it, right? Same
Mm-hmm.
thing for me. Chuck, man, hey, you kind of out there a little bit too much, man. Just kind of tone it down sometimes. I'm like, oh, but I'm the radio personality. This is big. But she knows that not everybody is your friend. And that's one thing I had to
Right.
learn from her. She's like, when we were doing homegrown at the apartment, we had people coming to our apartment. This is our
Mm.
apartment. This is where we live together. I'm talking about 4 in the morning, people coming in and out. Like, and for her to kind of like be able to kind of deal with that, but then also check me at the same time, like, yo, this is cool, but let's kind of like monitor how we do this. It was a pullback for me because this is my career. This is something I'm passionate about. So
Right.
in my mind, I'm like, nobody's gonna tell me what to do. This is what I want to do. If you're not gonna get with it, then hey, kick rocks. But I had to look at it like, you're willing to sacrifice certain things, so I have to be willing to sacrifice. So my thing is communication, sacrifice,
Mm.
and your partner has to really be your best friend. That's my homie, right? And with that, it's gonna come some good conversations and some bad conversations. But the ability to also, for us specifically, another thing with us, we know that we need, sometimes we need a little reset. We need a little pause. We don't need to
Right.
talk about or argue in the moment because we might say some things that we don't mean, or that
Right.
might hit the wrong hit the
Below
wrong
the
nerve.
belt.
Exactly. And it's not any disrespectful thing, but it's just like, you might not say it in a tone that you really mean it, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
need you need to have time to kind of pull back and have those conversations. And we've been through all of that and some. So I'm just, again, that I think that's important for anybody moving forward. It's like, it's not gonna be the rosy movie style love. It's not gonna be no, uh, no, what's that movie? No Love Jones situation. It's not always gonna be that, right? You're
It's
gonna have those.
work.
It's work, and you have to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to put the work in, and it might not always be in your favor. So as long as you take that and understand that that is gonna help build the foundation for your relationship, I think you can take on the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the I don't even know if you can really give this advice to kids, but I wish that was like one of the things that I would like I was told. It's like, look, like
Mhm.
like the fall in love part is the easy, the to sustain it. It's
Yeah,
just like how you put in work in your career is how you put in work in the relationship. And I feel like, now we're talking about it, but at one point I was just like, nah, you guys gonna fall in love and life is gonna be good. And then you got the kids, and the kids are gonna be
yeah,
great, and life is gonna be good. And like nobody really talks about like, one, you don't get out of this alive. So that's
right.
one thing, scary thing to
Facts.
look at. And then two, it's like there's always peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think,
Is that scary though? Is that scary, just to kind of push back on that, knowing that we all check
um
out?
it yes and no. Like it's one of those things where I try to live every day to the most. I try to get
Mhm.
out too much. I try to get like every minute of the day, like I'm trying to get something out of it. Every
Right.
idea where I feel like it can work, I'm trying to get something out of it. Like I push as much as I can. However, it's just kind of one of those things where um time you don't get back.
Mhm.
Like, that moment where, for instance, that moment when Real joined iHeart and you all came, because let the folks know behind the curtain.
Please, go ahead.
Before Real came, there was no black, like there was like the black people who helped set up, and we were part of the I forgot what it's called, the promotions crew where we
Motions
went
thing.
over,
Yeah.
but we didn't, there was no black radio station. And
Right.
then to have somebody like Big Boy come, and when he came, I'm sure like it's like that now. Everybody came. Snoop
Right.
came. Like you just saw an influx of artists coming and all this other stuff. And then I saw people who looked like me that I can have conversations with,
Wow.
like you, like
Yeah.
Head, like Spicy, like people I
Yeah.
still have relationships with to this day.
Right.
And you can't get that moment in time back. You know what I'm saying? Like Like, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that I can hit you up. I appreciate the fact that I can hit up. I appreciate the fact that I can see homegrown growing. But
Yeah.
that like pinpoint, it's like you never get back. And to know like all these little steps, it's like, yes, you appreciate the moments, but then in just a matter of this, you're a speck of dust. And so it's, you appreciate it, but it's also kind of scary. You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Yeah.
talking to somebody on the phone one day and the next day they're not there.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's crazy to think about. And you know, as if you guys are listening, you guys are into like self-help, you can definitely tell that I'm like, I spiral sometimes. But it's like, that's also how you appreciate life, and you appreciate the people that are like, you know, that are in your life. And you can look at, I mute certain people on Instagram just
Mhm.
because it's like, I like, this is good for you, but I really want to, the people that I see doing great things and that I am personally happy for, I make sure that their stuff is popping up on my Instagram more, because you guys inspire me. You know what I'm
Man,
saying? So
and
yeah.
I think that that's more of, again, the takeaway that I have from that is appreciating it more. Like, instead of fearing what you won't have anymore, appreciate what you do have. And that's another piece of advice that I tell artists. Just kind of circle back as far as the music. Um, Everybody talks about, oh, the radio plays this and that. They don't play any talented artists. Well, there's talented artists you can find online, and there's
Mhm.
different mediums and different ways. What are you going to do to support that artist that you think is so dope? Are you going to the
Right.
shows? Are you buying the merch? Are you appreciating them to the point where you're lifting them up and making them undeniable, so that the radio stations are kind of being tuned into them? If not, then what are we talking about? So, like, same
Right.
thing for you. You could have taken that moment with Real coming up and just been in awe, right? But you capitalize off of that. We're in contact, right? And these moments are happening, and um I just look at it as things happen in seasons, right?
Mhm.
And as much
True.
as we may not want that season to end, it's for the best for some reason, some way, shape, or form. We may not understand it, and that's something that I have to kind of like get on myself as well. Like, when I got let go from when the first station that I was working at, the beat flipped formats, I was devastated. I'm like, oh, I just got on air over here. I just got a weekend gig, and you guys flip formats. I didn't get it, right? But
Mhm.
that station just completely tanked, right? And then when I got my second job and got let go over there, I was just like, what the hell is going on? But if none of that happened, I wouldn't be doing
You wouldn't
homegrown the
be.
way I'm doing it now.
Yep.
There,
Mhm.
I always tell the story, and I'll keep it very quick. But that in that the transition between the second station that I worked for, I got let go, super devastated. I'm just like, man, I want to do radio. So I submitted my resume everywhere. I was willing to go anywhere to do radio. I got called from the station out in, I think, Santa Maria. Drove out there, did an air check live on the radio. They essentially hired me, offered me the position, and I never
Mhm.
heard back from them. And when I'm talking about, like, I never got a call back, and I'm like, you offered me the job, but you never called me back. I didn't get that. Was devastated. If I took that job, I would still be doing the radio ranks up north, maybe different markets, and I wouldn't be here. So
Right.
in that moment, I didn't get it. I was devastated. I'm like, I wish I could hold on to this season. I wish I could just hold on to this beat. Oh, I wish I would have had my moment then. But if that would have happened, who would have? I would have never met my wife.
Mm.
Never done homegrown. Me and Head wouldn't be as tight as we are. Who knows where my life would have been, right? So that's where I kind of look at, again, going back to being here for the moment. But we're here. We have our season for a reason. And you
Mhm.
being here, you're inspiring somebody. You have no. And the thing I love about this, you're inspiring somebody right now that you have no idea that you're making an impact on. And that's the beauty of it, because of your vulnerability, because of the situations that you've been through. With being at iHeart, not being at iHeart, that's inspiring somebody else. And you have no idea about that, because you have your own feelings about it. But that's what I love about the journey of life. It's like I sit back and just see what we go through and how we
Mhm.
internalize it, but how it's really affecting other people in a positive way. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's just kind of how my take on it. And I know that we're here for a certain amount of time for a reason, and we're just here to live and do what we got to do.
Yeah, I mean, you leave your marks, you leave your impact, and you know, and that's another good thing about doing entertainment.
Hmm.
This stuff lives on. Like,
Exactly.
you know,
Oh, there's
when
no
you
days of
when
this going away now.
oh
It's it's
yeah,
it's here.
when yeah, when you old and gray, like your child can show your grandkids like what you look like when you were young. Like you can't, you could see pictures of your parents when they were younger, but
Yeah, but
now
no
seeing,
video, no
yeah,
personality, nothing. I
it's
was just
it's
thinking
it's
about
it's
that. I was talking about that with one of my friends the other day. We were like, damn, imagine if our grandparents or our great grandparents had social media. Like, I would have just loved to see what they were into, what they did. And
mm-hmm,
we're literally the first of our generation that our grandkids, our great grandkids are gonna see, this
the
interview.
craziness.
You know what I'm saying? And the craziness, the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys. They're gonna see all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about it because it makes you a little more intentional about what you put out there, also.
Yes,
And it
very
makes you
true.
second guess, like, okay, what okay, let me make sure that what the seeds that I'm planting is, something that's gonna help humankind down the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can really do. You said a lot of it for my final question, but in one sentence, what would you do, or in one sentence, what would you say to somebody to inspire them to keep going?
I'm trying not to say just keep going, but because that's usually what I say. Um, it's cliche to say never give up, but I really would just say to hold on to the thing that drives you. Hold on to the thing that you get that burning desire for, that passion when everybody's out of the way, when the noise is low, when you're by yourself, right? When nobody's around, you're not doing it for the social media, you're not doing it for the accolades, and you what's that one thing that fulfills you? And go in
Mm-hmm.
that direction. That's how you not give up, because it's easy to kind of get caught up in, oh, I want to have the number one ratings, or I want to be on this station, or I want to interview and so. It's like, no, but why do you want to be on that station? Why do you want to be on
Mm-hmm.
number one? Why do you want to have a conversation with that person? Do you want to, what is it for you specifically? Everybody has their different things, right? So hold on to that. That's going to be your North Star when things is bucked up, because shit is
Mm,
going to get bucked up along the journey, and it's just about how you kind of like maintain when you're going through those valleys. And I know that was
there
more
it
than a
is.
sentence, but there you
I
go.
mean, you know what? Honestly, everybody gives me more than a sentence, so maybe I should rephrase. If I say give me a paragraph, they might give me a
Right,
monologue. I don't know,
right,
but
right, right.
it's speaking from your heart. Like it's
Yeah,
and I totally get it. Just like knowing the journey and the thing that, what I thought. This is so funny. This is like when I first came to Los Angeles, I listened to Big Boy every day, and I was running track at the time. But I listened to him on Saturdays too, and I'm like, damn, Big Boy's the hardest working man ever. Like he'd be on a Saturday too, only one day
yeah.
off,
In the
and I'm not gonna
station.
in the station, and I'm not gonna give away, that. I mean, I'm sure you can look it up, but it's just the behind the scenes of
Mhm.
radio and behind the scenes of podcasting and behind the scenes of
Ladies
entertainment
and
in general.
gentlemen, it's
That
pre-recorded. Okay, that's how radio works. We'll pull back the scene.
look,
Look,
you said it.
technology works that way. That's how syndicate. The Breakfast Club does it as well. Okay,
Yeah,
one
but you still have to
show
record it.
is one
That's still
show.
work.
Exactly, exactly. I don't want to downplay it. It's still work, but
Mm-hmm.
hey, we can pull back the layers a little bit for the people, because the thing is, people know, and if you don't know, that's just what it is. Sorry. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's why I wanted to let you say it. I wasn't gonna say it. But
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's still work, homegrown. It's
Yeah.
still work. And if you had stopped putting in that work,
Right.
it wouldn't be, because it gets hard. Like it's
Yeah.
and I'm not downplaying any other profession. This is just what I know, and it's just
Right.
kind of like people are like, oh, I want to do this, and like, yeah, you could do it, but like, are you ready for just not necessarily sleepless nights, but like
Yep.
really putting into your passion and putting into
Yeah.
your dream. And then, having people say, not seeing you for who you really are and all that stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, and then to be married on top of all that and be young, black, and married. To
With the
me,
kid.
kudos with a kid,
Man.
kudos to you guys. Cause it just, um, it's possible because you guys are doing it, but it just seems you're in the midst of growing separately and growing
Yeah.
together, and then growing in Los Angeles, and then growing the fact that you're in the industry, and now I know she's a personal chef, so there's all the now you have a
It's a
child.
lot,
It's just like
right?
it's a lot. And so kudos to you for just like I said in the beginning, very like portraying it,
Yeah, no,
because we
thank you
need
for
to see
saying that.
more of it.
Thank you for saying that. I think that's one of the reasons why I make sure I display it a little bit more, just so people can see that it is possible. Because before it was like, oh, the image of a radio personality, people in the entertainment business, oh, single life. Like, and that's cool if that's your
Mm-hmm.
thing, but some people really want to be in relationships. And I just want to show that it's cool to not only be in a relationship, it's cool to be a father. It's cool. I mean, especially as a black man, like we get ragged on a lot. And usually
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the times when we have artists come in, I love to have those conversations with them because when you see Migos or you see Offset of the Migos, nobody's talking about how great of a father he really is. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
so having these conversations and putting it to the forefront. Nipsey Hussle, before he passed, like he was an amazing father. Like he's a great artist, great artist, amazing artist. But what I really respected about him is the fact that he was doing all of that prior to unfortunately in passing. He was doing all of that and had 2 kids and was
Mm-hmm.
a great, like he didn't show up to one of our events and we've known it for a minute because he was with his daughter. And it was like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
gotta respect that. Like I'm not gonna be mad. Like, no, I respect that. So I make it a point to make sure that we highlight that, and especially for my personal brand, and even when we have folks on homegrown, my fathers and
Yeah.
parents and stuff.
Yeah, I mean the half and half of you and Head is the perfect combination, because if y'all don't know DJ Head, then look him up.
The yin and the yang.
It's like the perfect combination for y'all. But thank you
Yeah.
again so much for sharing your story. And where, oh, before we get out here, where can everybody find you?
Just find me at Chuck Dizzle everywhere. Obviously on Real 92.3, Monday through Saturday, seven seven to 10.
He in the studio, y'all,
uh,
every day.
in the studio, Monday through Saturday, 7 p.m. And yeah, homegrown radio, Chuck Dizzle. You got just easy to find. I'm accessible.
Boom, there it is. Thank you so much.
Love, appreciate you, TK. Thank you so much for having me.
Peaks and Valleys is produced by Josh Rodriguez and TKO Productions. Spoken word and voiceover is done by yours truly, Lem Gonzalez. Thank you for listening, and remember, after the darkness comes the dawn.